Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, the powerful teacher union issues endorsements. Were there any surprises? Senate bill to strip Maryland, My Maryland as the official song, and our Irish origins in Maryland. Stay tuned. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by the past president of Progressive Maryland, Elbridge James, Maryland Young Republican National Committeeman, Evan Young, transportation and railway consultant, Phil Bell, and political strategist, Susan Heltemes. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. The Maryland House of Delegates passed 3 gun control measures on Thursday, including a ban on bump stock devices and 2 more controversial measures which would require citizens to surrender their firearms. Susan, the so-called red flag law would allow a judge to order gun owners to surrender their firearms if they were deemed to be a threat to themselves or others, and the second requires gun owners convicted of domestic violence to surrender their weapons. Will the state Senate pass similar measures, and are they necessary?
I'm confident the Senate is going to pass at least a part of them. The legislation, though, about domestic violence is really critical because domestic violence victims are very often at a very high rate end up getting killed by their former loved ones, whatever, with guns. So that makes sense. And if you are suffering from mental illness and a judge deems that, they should get rid of their guns. Just think about the killing just in Florida and other places where it's well known they've been having problems, they've been having delusions, their classmates are afraid of them, they get out of school, be kicked out of the school, and yet they can still have guns. So I think we're going in the right effort. And then the president, or Attorney General Sessions, says he's going to get rid of bump stocks, through edicts. So we're getting somewhere, Casey.
Well, I want to go to Phil. Phil, I mean, this seems to me that you're intruding slightly on the rights of citizens to own firearms. And when does the state interfere and make those determinations?
Well, it's more than intruding slightly. In fact, most of what I just heard is very well crafted political gobbledygook, because
Not
the reality,
violence.
absolutely.
I was the president of
First of all,
happens.
There's nobody supporting domestic violence, absolutely, and you know that. But the reality is, when you talk about domestic violence and mental illness, how do we know that we're not making it so that somebody who is not engaged in these things is going to have their guns taken away? Anytime, even if you go back to thinking about involuntary commitment to mental institutions and otherwise, that can be a lever to take away guns from a perfectly law-abiding individual.
We have to go back to common sense.
No, common sense tells me that each of us has plenty of weapons on us right now that could do harm to someone else, and those aren't being banned.
I have no guns.
Those are our hands, our feet.
Hold on, Phil. Susan, I mean, domestic violence offenders can't get a gun under Maryland law already.
They can have their guns taken away.
Well, that's the question. I want to go to Elbridge because I want to move on. Elbridge, these legislative fixes, they sound great, but they're not going to prevent anyone who really is determined to kill people. I mean, there's 1,000 murders in Baltimore every year.
I can see you can't stop everyone, but the point is, like we do as we administer our tickets, our driving licenses and things of this nature, the public safety comes first. That way, in fact, under the environment where someone can kill someone if they're distraught, we need to jump in and save women, save children. We're in a climate now of Me Too, which means I need to be protected too.
But Elbridge, you made a great point. Hold on, he talked about driver's licenses. Are you going to take driver's licenses?
We do take driver's license away from people. We do take driver's license away from people who have proven not that they cannot drive.
Yes,
but you're not answering the question.
If you're drunk,
You're not answering the question.
I'm answering the question properly. You're changing the dynamics.
Wait, I want to go to Evan on this.
As far as the bump stocks are concerned, this is nothing except let's do something that looks good, that can make people think we're doing something. 342 murders in Baltimore last year. 49 so far this year. Not a single bump stock in sight. Bump stocks.
That's another issue.
No,
That is
that's an
another
issue on this question.
The people
Bump
in Las
stocks were
Vegas would
mentioned.
disagree with you right now about those bump stops.
That's one
Well,
incident.
Sessions
We're
is
talking
gonna
about
get
we're
rid of
talking
that.
about Maryland, and I'm talking about this does not change anything that
want us to
occurred
be
in
another
Baltimore
Las
last year.
Vegas?
Doesn't
Do you want us
change
to be
anything
another
happening
Las
in
Vegas?
Baltimore
Except
this
that
year.
you know what the problem in
There's no
Baltimore.
bump stocks on handguns.
The death rate is going down in Baltimore,
No, it's
and a
not.
lot of it, yes, it is in comparison to last year, and a lot of
They
it
set a
had to
record
do
last
with
year.
yes, but it had to do with a lot of corrupt cops and what was going on, and they have
Corrupt
changed.
cops are shooting
yes,
each other?
corrupt cops are.
Susan, we got to wrap it up because we've got to go on to our next topic.
Corrupt cops is the answer.
But the gun control legislation is something that concerns all of us. We'll watch what the General Assembly finally passes when this legislative session wraps itself up. Now, on Saturday afternoons when I was growing up, my much older sister Patricia and I would gather around the television to watch American Bandstand, and our favorite segment was when two teens were asked by Dick Clark whether they liked a song and what they liked about it. Now, usually the answers were, it's got a really good beat, or it's easy to dance to. But rarely, almost never, did anyone comment on the lyrics. And for nearly 100 years, no one apparently has bothered listening to the official state song, Maryland, My Maryland. But now, however, it's in the crosshairs of the progressive movement for extinction. Phil, since most people don't seem to listen to the lyrics anyway, what's all the hubbub about Maryland, My Maryland?
It's a good question. The answer is I don't know. And the reason I'm telling you that is, yes, are the lyrics interesting? Do they come back to a time that's quite a bit different from the 21st century? Absolutely. But that's one of the really cool things about state songs and older states like Maryland, is that there are unique aspects, whether it's a state song or otherwise, that make this place great. One of the things I think about is how many states have the cardinal as a state bird? How boring is that? The state song should remain the official state song, and this is just more progressive tripe.
Elbridge, it seems that the state Senate, at least, will strip the song of its official status. Are progressives trying to whitewash history?
Oh, hell no. Phil.
Yes.
They talk about the Union. They hate the Union, the United States.
The scum.
They talk about Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, the founder of the Republican Party. That it is, in fact, it's antiquated, it's out of date, and it should never be made the official song. And you're just laughing because you saw me rise out the chair. The point is the official song. It should never been the official song. You expect me to sit there and sing to something that a Southern sympathizer wrote, that it was one time considered almost a Confederate battle song, and now you want to make it, keep it Maryland, My Maryland? No.
You know,
heck no.
there are nine. There are nine different. What are they called? Nine
Verses?
Verses. That's it.
Okay.
And each one they seem to get worse and worse and worse. And it's like it'll be considered historic, but not the state song. And I think we have to think about the feelings of everyone. And why can't we have a song that talks about the men and women and children of Maryland and the beauty and the vastness and the Chesapeake Bay? We don't have to honor slavery.
Well, Susan, I got to tell you, I mean, even I have a hard time justifying Maryland, My Maryland as the state song. I love legacy and I love historical references, but this one is a bit of a stretch.
I'd never even heard any of the lyrics or knew any of the lyrics until yesterday,
Did you?
reading over
Pretty
this.
scary, isn't it?
And I guarantee 99% of people in Maryland don't know or care about the lyrics anyway. So it's becoming a big issue, but virtually no one's going to know what these lyrics are until it becomes an issue and people
Well,
really
I
read
think
about it.
we're going to commission Susan to write a new state song, and of course it has to be sung to the tune of "O Tannenbaum," just like Maryland, My Maryland.
Well,
Hail to the Redskins, she'd love that one.
We could have a contest. In the state of Minnesota, the state of
Yes.
Minnesota took the University
Yes.
of Minnesota Rouser song. Wasn't that rousing at the time? But anyway, and they use that, and it talks about the men and women and children and how wonderful and beautiful the state is.
Well, we can talk about how wonderful the Chesapeake Bay is
And all those things.
and the mountains in western Maryland. When we come back from this short break, what are the surprising Irish roots of Maryland history? Stay tuned. And welcome back. The Montgomery County Education Association issued its most recent endorsements for state delegates and the Senate races. Susan, were there any surprises?
Well, I think the surprises were that they did initial endorsements a while back and held off on a few until they had an opportunity to talk to candidates and see how they were voting this version. As of the current time, there are only two incumbents that weren't endorsed, and that's Matrice from District 19 and Jim Gilchrist from District 17. I think it's good that they shake things up. You know, they have to fill out a questionnaire, and obviously, you know, they rank them. And whether you're the NRA or the Sierra Club or the teachers or the Farmers Union, you're all going to have.
There's a real big difference, Susan, between a public employees union giving endorsements and private organizations. And Elbridge, I wanted to ask you about this. Should public unions be giving endorsements for delegates and for elections when they're going to get state contracts back for their employees?
C4s are allowed to be politically active, and C4s can have PACs, and those PACs endorse. And Susan hit the point. Republicans are not usually considered because Republicans do not fill out the questionnaires, and a lot of times on those questionnaires there are questions that they take a counter view. And so people are going to endorse their vested interests.
The question is not whether they endorse Republicans or Democrats. The question is whether they should be able to endorse anyone at all.
Yes, they're citizens.
No, it's a public union.
But Elbridge makes a good point about the questionnaires, and that's part of the problem. Part of the reason I mostly agree with you about not endorsing is these questionnaires are written for the purpose of excluding Republicans and conservatives.
can
And
The only one who gets their endorsement are legislators who want to spend more and more money for teachers and the education system, and no one is looking out after the taxpayer.
Well,
over the history of the Apple ballot, they have endorsed folks that weren't incumbents, and I know that for a fact.
And they did this time.
Just because they endorse someone who's not an incumbent doesn't mean they're endorsing somebody who's just not going to give them an open checkbook.
Well, but
that's the problem.
But then
they're going to endorse people that are always going to go for increases in salary, increases in spending.
No,
they're never going to look out for the
educational system as
they're
they
never
see
going to
fit.
look out for the interests
No, they're
of the
looking for
taxpayer.
people for educational system as they see fit.
All right, Evan, the importance of the teachers union endorsement, it can't be understated. He's talking about the Apple ballot. Everybody on the Apple ballot gets elected, but not a single Republican's endorsed. What does your party do to negate the influence of the teachers union?
Evan, hold on, before you say that.
Yeah.
I know people on the Apple ballot that did not get elected.
One time.
No, it happens all the time.
Well, I think 2012, there was a ranking of state teachers unions and how powerful they were. Maryland's was ranked 23rd, but
Middle of the road.
in perceived influence, they were ranked 4th in the country. So they do have a lot of influence, and we can forget about trying to get endorsed by them, because while they have influence, we have facts and reality on our side. But it takes candidates on our side that can articulate that and go speak to the parents and override an Apple ballot and what influence that might have. Let me finish.
Because you're on the national committee. Is this a national problem?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But then the NRA doesn't endorse.
We're not talking about the NRA. We're talking
well,
about.
but their unions and
We're talking
straight.
about a public union.
NRA
We're
has
talking about a
endorsed
public
Democrats.
union.
And in
they
Montgomery
absolutely
County,
have.
Over the last decade, the schools ranked in the top 100 nationally have fallen. The schools ranked most challenging have fallen. Final exams have been eliminated. Regardless, Republican or Democrat, parents should want their kids in challenging schools that prepare them. That's not happening right now. So we need candidates that can go talk about that, connect with the parents, and actually have, besides just don't vote for the Apple ballot, have an idea of why you should vote for them instead.
Well, I want to say that this time around, I don't know what the strength of the Apple ballot will be, because our primary is June 26th and school year is over. So a lot of the teachers leave town as soon as the school year is over. So I'm not certain how many teachers will actually be at the polls with the Apple ballot.
Well, you don't think the word is going to get out about who the teachers union is supporting?
I'm not necessarily. If you
worried?
are a normal,
You're not worried about it for November. I can tell you that.
On an ordinary voter, though, they come, they don't have a clue. And if a teacher is there with an Apple ballot, they often take it.
only
But
for your
if there is
primary.
no teacher there,
Susan, we got. This is the most important topic of the night. because most Marylanders, they know one thing about Maryland.
Oh,
that
the,
it was a-
the governor
it
was on
a-
the apple ballot?
No,
The
it-
no, you said it's the most important. Was the governor on the apple ballot?
I don't know if
No.
the governor was on the apple ballot or not. Elbridge, let me get through this, all right? Because Maryland was established as a haven for Roman Catholics persecuted in England, and that Lord Baltimore was its founder, and that's about it. Few knew that Baron Baltimore was a peerage of Ireland. He was an Irishman. So here's a little quiz for our panel on the night before St. Patrick's Day. Elbridge, because you're a Philadelphia Eagle fan, I don't expect you to know this answer. What year was Maryland founded?
I had to ask. 1634.
Wrong.
Okay.
1632.
Okay. I was close.
1634 is when they came here.
Okay.
Come on, Elbridge. You can't cheat. You can't even, you're just like the Eagles. You can't even cheat right.
We got the Super Bowl.
Susan, as a Minnesotan, who was Maryland named after?
Henrietta Maria from France. She was the wife of King Charles of England.
Oh, you did your homework.
Of
didn't
course.
You? You did your homework, didn't you?
I'm a girl. We do our homework. We're the brainy ones in the class.
Phil, the name Baltimore is an Anglicization of the Irish Bailey Antimora, which means town of the big house. How did the city of Baltimore get its name?
Now, is it named after Lord Baltimore's house?
I'm not. Is
That's-
that a
that's-
guess?
that-
That
yeah.
sounds like a guess.
That's in the form of a question,
That is-
Jeopardy style.
We're
This
not
is Jeopardy
Jeopardy.
style. Baltimore Manor was the name of the estate of the Lord Calvert's family. So yes, you get a A+ for guessing right. All right, Evan, how many settlers traveled on the two ships, the Ark and the Dove, to settle Maryland in Elbridge, 1634?
You said Evan.
Well, I don't know if it's the answer you have, but according to St. Mary's City Historical Society, which I did my homework on, 140.
Oh, I had 200.
Well, they died part of the way.
Part of the part.
Wow.
Maybe
They were
200
buried
set-
at sea like
maybe
Davy Jones.
200 set off. All right, so we got some extra. We have some time for extra credit. Susan, who was the only Roman Catholic to sign the Declaration of Independence?
As a nice Catholic girl, Charles Carroll.
All right. Now, Elbridge, I'm going to give you a chance to redeem yourself. What was the name of the first Catholic Archbishop of Baltimore? There is a high school in Washington, D.C. named after him.
He's not a
Archbishop
Catholic.
Carroll?
Archbishop Carroll.
John Carroll.
John, you got it. I knew you could get it. All right. Now, Phil,
Yes.
for extra credit, what neighborhood in Baltimore is called Little Dublin?
Wow, that's a great question, and I'm going to have to go with Guilford.
It's
the last
part
one
of
I can think
Patterson
of.
Park.
Patterson.
Only a part
Look
of
at
it, though.
We got
Only
2
a
minutes. We
part
got
of
2
it.
minutes to kill. Look at these. Look at these. Look at these two smarty pants here.
Absolutely. Google's an amazing thing.
Google is an amazing.
I learned so much about Maryland this week.
I have found out, though, that sometimes
All
with
right,
Google,
so
you
I have a
don't
couple
even-
of extra questions for you. When was the first General Assembly of Maryland formally formed?
I didn't Google that. I don't know.
Anybody want to take a guess?
We
so
were the-
1634 is when they arrived. When was the first General Assembly formed?
1670 something. I feel like I remember in my search
It
history.
was actually 1639.
Okay, well, that's
was
close.
when
You
the
were
first
off.
assembly.
Wow.
What's four
was the
decades?
first assembly came. And since religious tolerance was such an important part of Maryland's history, what year was the Toleration Act passed that granted religious freedom to all Marylanders?
I grew up in Minnesota. I don't know that.
1654. So you can see how important our history is to the development of our country and what we think about and how we conduct our daily lives. So I want you all to take a lesson here and make sure that tomorrow on St. Patrick's Day you're wearing the green and you're celebrating our Irish roots.
And we were the lucky seventh
Stay
state.
tuned for parting shots when we come back from the short break. And welcome back with Parting Shots, Susan Heltemes.
This week on Wednesday, students walked out across the country. They said prayers, they bowed their head, they read the bios and names of people who were killed. And we hear about the Second Amendment all the time, the right to keep and bear arms. But the First Amendment says that people have the right to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. I think we need to look forward to next Saturday, the 24th, from when young people around the country, their parents and teachers, march in Washington. Yesterday, I listened to former Republican Lieutenant Governor Michael Steele, and he essentially said the same thing that U.S. Senator Democrat Ben Cardin said today at Richard Montgomery High School. He said, listen to the children, something's getting done this time. And as Michael Steele said, watch out, Republicans, if we sit around, it's serious this time, we could lose.
Thank you, Susan. Elbridge James, your parting shot.
Mine is a twist to that. I applaud our young and our teenagers and their parents are taking issues seriously. My concern, the fact is that I do not want a Democratic Party to twist this or turn this and not listen to our students and our parents in terms of the need of this country. It is time, whether we shouldn't be Democrat or Republican. It's time for everybody to move forward.
Thank you, Elbridge. Evan Young, your parting shot.
Go a little different route and formally welcome Alex Smith to the Washington Redskins and formally say goodbye to Kirk Cousins. You gave us a great 6 years of sub 500 winning percentage and not a single playoff win. Very expensive though, so I'm glad we'll be able to move forward. Hopefully with a guy who wants to be here long term. He seemed excited to be here for the next 5 years. Good luck, Minnesota. That Kirk Cousins might be the thing that puts you over the edge, or it'll just stop you from being able to afford any other talent.
That's a wonderful take on things, Evan. I got to admire your chutzpah here. And
Especially sitting next to me.
Phil Bell, your parting shot.
All right, I'm a lifelong Republican. I love the Republican Party, but today I'm very upset at House Republican leadership that's currently trying to pass both an internet sales tax and also ignore right-to-try legislation that would let people try to stay alive with experimental medications. For our party that's trying to win, we're doing an absolutely terrible job of it, and this needs to stop now.
Thank you, Phil. Now, I'm always amused by the national media, and in particular, our own Washington media, who gets so up in arms and so excited about who is working for President Trump. President Trump has an unusual management style, but really what difference does it make if some guy in the White House gets fired, or if the Secretary of State gets fired, if it's the president who has the authority to do so, and these people work for him? I don't think they're the ones that are really setting policy. It's the President of the United States who sets the policy. And if the Secretary of State disagrees, he should either leave or be expected to be fired. So I'm sure we're going to see lots and lots of tea leaves readers and lots of consternation over the next couple weeks as rumors go on that John Kelly's going to be fired or that so-and-so is going to be fired. Oh my goodness, firings happen in every administration. This isn't anything new or anything unusual. Thank you, panel, for being here tonight. It's good. It's a good energy night, getting ready for St. Patrick's Day. I want to thank the viewers for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest-hitting political talk show. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken.